The wildfire virus. In The Walking Dead, the end of the world doesn't come with a bang, but with a cough you'll never hear. The wildfire virus is a mysterious pathogen that doesn't just spread, it's already everywhere. By the time Rick Grimes wakes up in that hospital bed, humanity's fate is sealed. Everyone is infected, and the virus just waits patiently for one little thing: death. The second your heart stops, your brainstem flickers back to life like a light switch, and you're suddenly walking around with a craving for ribs, but not the barbecue kind. What makes the wildfire virus especially terrifying is how quickly it spreads through bites and scratches. Instead of waiting for natural causes, you get a ticket straight to Zombie Town within hours. Over the seasons, we've seen how environment and experimentation can twist the rules, producing terrifying walker variants that are faster, stronger, and sometimes even smarter. And thanks to hints and spin-offs like Daryl Dixon, there's an unsettling suggestion that French labs may have had a hand in cooking this nightmare up. At its core, though, The Walking Dead isn't just about infection. It's about how people survive when society crumbles. Sure, walkers are dangerous, but the real threat often comes from power-hungry survivors building bizarre cults and communities. Because sometimes, the undead are easier to deal with than the living. The Rage Virus. The Rage Virus in 28 Days Later is one of the nastiest twists in zombie cinema because it wasn't designed to destroy humanity, it was designed to save it. Created as a gene therapy to suppress violent behavior, the experiment backfired spectacularly, mutating into its total opposite, a blood-borne infection that amplifies aggression to monstrous extremes. The outbreak kicks off when some animal rights activists storm a research facility and free chimpanzees.
Fucking hell.
That scientists explicitly warned were infected with rage. It's basically PETA's ultimate oops moment. Once released, the virus spreads with terrifying speed, transmitted through infected blood or saliva. Victims transform into hyper-aggressive killers in seconds, fueled not by hunger, but by uncontrolled fury. Unlike traditional zombies, the infected are very much alive, fast, strong, and relentless, which makes them even more dangerous. They don't want to eat you, they want to rip you apart. Technically, they're still alive, and their bodies have become weapons of rage. Infection is inevitable once exposed. And there's no cure or time for goodbyes. One drop of blood in the eye, and it's over. The virus transforms cities into war zones almost overnight, showing how fragile civilization really is when chaos moves faster than order. It's not just a horror concept, it's a metaphor for the uncontrollable violence lurking beneath society's surface. If something like this were to actually happen, humanity would destroy itself in seconds. Cordyceps fungus. A mutated strain of the Cordyceps fungus, which normally infects insects, suddenly begins to affect humans and turns them into violent, mindless hosts. The disease spreads through bites or spores in the air, and once you're infected, there's no coming back. The fungus slowly takes over the body, eating its way through tissue until it sprouts out of the skull as ridiculous fungal blooms.
Just because life stopped for you doesn't mean it has to stop for me.
Early stages leave victims fast and aggressive, but as it progresses, they evolve into horrifying clickers that can't see but hunt using echolocation. Imagine a bat and a living mushroom had a nightmare baby, you get the picture. What makes this infection even creepier is that it's based on reality. Real cordyceps can mind control ants, so humanity feels just one mutation away from disaster. The show doesn't just focus on monsters, though. It explores how people survive in a crumbling world. Military quarantine zones show the harsh side of order, while isolated groups adopt bizarre philosophies to make sense of the chaos. Some try to rebuild community, while others embrace brutality as their way of life. It's not just about running from fungal zombies, it's about asking who you become when society collapses. And really, the scariest part is realizing that in this world, the zombies aren't always the worst monsters. Bioengineered virus. The outbreak in Train to Busan kicks off with a deer getting run over by a truck. But immediately gets up. The film doesn't wait long before the first zombie gets on a train and starts to bite other people. The cycle begins, victims transform in under a minute, their bones snapping and bodies contorting as the virus hijacks the nervous system. If you thought rush hour train rides were stressful before, imagine one wrong move turning the entire cabin into a feeding frenzy. These zombies are a nightmare of pure speed and chaos. They sprint, throw themselves through windows, and twist their bodies in ways that look both insect-like and disturbingly human. Their hunting depends on sight and sound, which gives survivors tiny chances to slip past, like when a tunnel plunges the train into darkness, or a closed door briefly confuses them. Beyond the jaw-dropping action, Train to Busan uses its zombies as more than monsters. The high-speed KTX train, a modern symbol of convenience, becomes a claustrophobic trap where social hierarchies and morality are tested. Who gets shut out? Who gets saved? Who's sacrificed for the greater good? The film blends adrenaline with emotion, making it one of the few zombie stories where you'll cry as hard as you jump. T-Virus. The zombies of Resident Evil trace their origins back to the T-Virus, a mutagenic bioweapon cooked by the Umbrella Corporation. Designed as a military tool, the virus reanimates dead tissue, jumpstarts metabolism, and wipes out higher brain functions, leaving victims with one primal urge: to feed. A single bite, scratch, or splash of contaminated fluid is enough to turn someone into a corpse on legs within minutes. And, if you thought that was bad, airborne leaks like the infamous Raccoon City outbreak prove the virus can spiral into a pandemic faster than Usain Bolt racing through a 100-meter track. Classic Resident Evil zombies, seen in the early games and the 2002 film, walk slowly, but don't let their pace fool you. Unless you destroy their brain or sever their spinal cord, they'll crawl, claw, and lunge until you're out of bullets or courage. The real kicker, though, is Umbrella's obsession with iterating on its own mistakes. From the G virus and C virus to the Las Plagas parasite and mold fungus, each new strain spawned monsters more grotesque and dangerous than the last. Like villagers with hive mind intelligence in Resident Evil 4 and mutating Javo in Resident Evil 6, or iconic zombies like the Nemesis and Tyrants, these species are bound to destroy humanity. The Solanum virus. World War Z takes the zombie apocalypse and dials it up to maximum chaos. Instead of slow, clumsy corpses, the Solanum virus turns humans into zombies that are fast-moving.
Hey, what the hell is going on? The computer's coming!
Relentless and terrifyingly coordinated, operating almost like a hive mind. They don't just chase you, they jump over walls, pile onto helicopters, and swarm cities like a tidal wave of death. If you thought getting stuck in traffic was bad, wait until you see 1,000 zombies climbing each other like human ladders. The infection itself is spread through bites or contact with contaminated fluids, making every scratch or splash potentially fatal. What sets this film apart, however, is the way it explores how different nations respond to the outbreak. Israel builds massive walls. North Korea takes the extreme step of removing all citizens' teeth, and the US struggles to keep order as society collapses. It's part zombie horror, part geopolitical thriller, showing survival strategies through wildly different cultural lenses. At the heart of it all is Jerry Lane, played by Brad Pitt, whose mission to track down the origins of the infection turns into a global race against time. His journey takes him from collapsing cities to military bases and even a WHO facility crawling with the infected. The action is large-scale, explosive, and constantly high stakes, elevating the genre into blockbuster territory. DC-2 Virus. Planet Terror, written and directed by Robert Rodriguez, is a comedy horror film filled with chaos. Set in rural Texas, the story kicks off when Lieutenant Muldoon and his rogue military squad attempt to purchase a biochemical agent known as DC-2, or Project Terror, from scientist Abby. The exchange goes horribly wrong.
Shit.
The gas leaks, and suddenly, people begin transforming into zombie-like monstrosities. The creatures in this movie aren't like your typical zombies. They're melting, oozing, and vicious, ripping through the town with aggression. Caught in the middle is Cherry Darling, a go-go dancer who quickly goes from vulnerable victim to action icon. After losing her leg in an attack, Cherry returns with a weaponized prosthetic, a fully loaded machine gun that turns her into one of horror cinema's most unforgettable heroines. She teams up with her ex-boyfriend El Rey, a mysterious drifter whose deadly combat skills suggest there's more to his past than bar fights and small-town drifting. Together, they lead a ragtag band of survivors, including a no-nonsense doctor, a sheriff's deputy, and Abby himself, through wave after wave of infected horrors. But the human threat is just as dangerous. Muldoon's soldiers, exposed to the gas, are slowly mutating into something even more terrifying, forcing survivors to fight enemies on both sides of the chaos. 245 Trioxin Virus. The zombie agent from Return of the Living Dead is straight-up government weaponry gone wrong. A military chemical called 245 trioxin, leaked from barrels stored in a medical supply warehouse. Unlike standard zombie viruses, this stuff doesn't just infect people, it literally reanimates the dead, making corpses claw their way out of graves when it seeps into the soil. What makes these zombies uniquely terrifying is their awareness. They can speak, feel pain, and even set traps, with one of the film's most twisted jokes being that these zombies don't just moan, they literally prank, call dispatch for backup meals. They openly explain that they eat brains to ease the agony of death, which is as disturbing as it is bizarre. And good luck killing them. Decapitation, fire, or dismemberment just creates more threats. Even cremation backfires, since the smoke rises into the sky, mixes with clouds, and rains down more infection. It's a nightmare feedback loop where every human solution only makes the outbreak worse. When chopping one up, it just gives you more zombies. You know the game is rigged, and the government's final answer, nuking the entire town, proves how hopeless containment really is. If you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate it if you liked and subscribed, because much like the zombie infections, we keep uploading and spreading terrifying content on YouTube.